The great ships of the Carthian Dominion filled the darkness of space. Their metal hulls gleamed under the light of Proxima Centauri. Admiral Zixthar stood on the bridge of his command vessel. His 4 eyes narrowed as he watched the last luminary warship break apart. Fire bloomed silently in the vacuum, and then there was nothing but floating debris. "The battle is won," said his second-in-command. "The last major luminary fleet is destroyed." Admiral Zixthar's mouth split into what his species considered a smile. "Not just the battle, Commander. The war itself is won." For over 300 years, the Carthian Dominion had fought against the Luminary Alliance, a group of 5 alien species who had joined together to resist Carthian rule. The Luminary were advanced and clever, but the Carthians were stronger and more numerous. Now, after centuries of fighting, the last organized resistance had been crushed. "Send word to all Carthian worlds," ordered Zixthar. "Let the celebration." 6 months passed since the strange energy readings from Proxima Centauri. Jack Powell and Dr. Olivia Winters worked day and night with their team, studying the data and preparing reports. The government kept everything secret. No one wanted to cause panic. Then it happened. On a clear night in Arizona, something broke through Earth's atmosphere. It streaked across the sky, trailing fire and smoke. The object crashed in the desert with a sound like thunder. Military vehicles surrounded the crash site within hours. Soldiers in protective suits approached the smoking wreckage carefully. What they found changed everything. It wasn't a meteor. It was a ship. An alien ship. The next morning, Joe Miller stood at attention outside a hastily built compound in the desert. As a Marine lieutenant with 10 years of service, he had seen combat in many places, but nothing had prepared him for this assignment. "At ease, Lieutenant," said General Harris as he approached. "You've been briefed." "Yes, sir," Joe replied. "I'm to serve as military liaison to our visitor." The general nodded. "Follow me." They entered a secure room where doctors and scientists worked around a bed. On it lay a being unlike anything Joe had ever seen. It was tall and slender with pale blue skin that seemed to glow slightly. Its eyes were large and silver, with no visible pupils. "This is Ambassador Ilara," said General Harris. "She's the only survivor from the ship." Joe tried not to stare. "She. That's how she described herself," the general explained. "The translator devices are working well now. She speaks several Earth languages already. Fast learner." Ilara turned her head toward them. "You must be Lieutenant Miller," she said in a voice that sounded almost musical. "I have asked to speak with your military personnel." Joe stepped forward. "I'm here to help any way I can, Ambassador." "Good," she said, "because your world is in grave danger." 2 days later, Joe sat in a secure conference room with world leaders who had been flown in secretly. Dr. Winters and Jack Powell were there too. Ilara stood at the front of the room, much stronger now. "My people are the Luminary," she explained. "We formed an alliance of 5 species to resist the Carthian Dominion, an empire that controls most of our galaxy. We fought for centuries, but we have lost." Her silver eyes scanned the room. "The battle your instruments detected was our last major defeat. Why have we never encountered either of your peoples before?" asked the president. "The Carthians have avoided your solar system," Ilara said. "We did not know why until recently. There is something in human DNA that concerns them, something unique." Dr. Winters looked up from her notes. "What do you mean, unique?" "Your adaptability," Ilara replied. "Your capacity for innovation under pressure. It is uncommon in the galaxy." Joe spoke up. "What exactly do the Carthians want?" Ilara's face showed what might have been sadness. "They want what all empires want: complete control. They conquer worlds, use their resources, and often eliminate the native species." The room fell silent. "How long do we have?" asked General Harris. "Not long," said Ilara. "I barely escaped when my diplomatic vessel was attacked. I came to warn you. The Carthians will come now that they know humans are aware of them. As if to confirm her words, Jack's phone beeped. He looked at it, and his face paled. "We've detected objects entering the outer solar system," he announced. "Moving fast. Not natural objects." Joe looked at Ilara. "Are those your people?" "Reinforcements." She shook her head slowly. "No, Lieutenant. The Carthians have found you." Outside the conference room, technicians monitored deep space. On their screens, multiple objects moved past Neptune, heading toward Earth. Probe ships, Ilara called them. The first wave. That evening, as Joe walked Ilara to her quarters, she stopped suddenly. "Your people are not ready for this war," she said. Joe straightened his shoulders. "Maybe not, but we're quick learners." "You will need to be," Ilara replied. "The Carthians think the war is already won." "Then they don't know humans very well," Joe said. "We're at our best when our backs are against the wall." For the first time, something like hope showed in Ilara's silver eyes. "Perhaps that is why they feared your world," she whispered. "Perhaps that is why we need you." The world changed overnight. Leaders from every country met in secret. For the first time in human history, all nations agreed on one thing. Earth needed to prepare for war. They formed the Earth Defense Coalition. Every country shared their best technology and brightest minds. Scientists worked around the clock to understand the alien ship that had crashed. Engineers tried to copy its advanced parts. Soldiers trained for a kind of battle no human had ever fought before. Captain Diana Cruz stood on the bridge of the U.S. Defender, the first human spaceship built with luminary technology. Until 3 months ago, she had commanded a nuclear submarine. Now she looked out at the stars, knowing that enemies were coming from beyond them. "Engine tests complete, Captain," said her first officer. "All systems are working." Diana nodded. "Begin combat drills. I want this crew ready for anything." The Defender was just the first ship. In secret bases around the world, more were being built. But Diana knew they might not be enough. The Carthians had thousands of warships. Earth had 7. At the main research facility in Colorado, Dr. Winters showed Ilara her latest discovery. "There's something unusual in human DNA," she explained, pointing to her computer screen. "A sequence that allows for faster adaptation than most species." Ilara studied the images. "This might explain why the Carthians avoided your world. They fear species that can adapt quickly." Jack Powell entered the lab, looking tired but excited. "The retrofit on the Luminary shuttle is complete," he announced. "We can fly it now." Ilara turned to him. "You understand what this means. You could search for other Luminary survivors." Jack nodded. "That's the plan. If there are still resistance fighters out there, we need to find them." Dr. Winters looked worried. "It's a long shot, Jack. Ilara says the Luminary forces are scattered across the galaxy." "They're out there," Jack insisted. "And they need to know they have allies now." In the weeks that followed, world governments told their people the truth. At first, there was fear and panic. But soon, a sense of unity spread across Earth like never before. Old enemies became allies. Resources were shared. Everyone worked toward survival. Lieutenant Joe Miller trained soldiers from 50 different countries. They learned to use weapons designed to fight the Carthians. Ilara helped, teaching them about Carthian weaknesses. "They rely too much on their technology," she explained during one training session. "And they don't adapt well to surprise tactics." Joe watched his troops practicing. Then surprise is what we'll give them. Captain Cruz tested her ship and crew with increasingly difficult exercises. The Defender and its sister ships practiced maneuvers around the moon, hiding in its shadow, using its gravity to gain speed. "The Carthians will expect us to fight conventionally," she told her crew. "We won't. We'll use everything we have. Earth's gravity, the sun's radiation, the asteroid belt. Space itself will be our weapon." One evening, Jack Powell found Dr. Winters working late in her lab. "I have something for you," she said, handing him a small device. It's based on luminary communication technology, but I've modified it. It might be able to cut through the Carthian jamming signals that Ilara described. Jack turned the device over in his hand. This could help us find the resistance. That's the idea, she replied. If there are luminary forces still fighting out there, this should help you contact them. The next morning, Jack stood before the volunteer crew for the luminary shuttle mission. 10 men and women who had agreed to venture farther from Earth than any human ever had. I won't lie to you, he said. This mission is dangerous. We're heading into Carthian-controlled space to find allies we're not even sure exist anymore. When do we leave, sir? Asked Amy Rivera, the communications specialist. Jack smiled at her confidence. Tomorrow at dawn. As they prepared for the mission, Diana Kruz's fleet took up defensive positions around Earth. Joe Miller finalized training for ground forces. Dr. Winters continued her research on human DNA. The entire planet held its breath, waiting for the Carthians to arrive in force. No one knew it yet, but humanity's first real test in space was just days away. The Carthian scouts entered the solar system with confidence. 10 warships, each larger than anything humans had built, moved past the orbit of Mars. They expected no resistance. Their scans showed that Earth technology was primitive compared to their own. They were wrong. All ships maintained position behind Jupiter. Captain Diana Cruz ordered from the bridge of the Defender. Wait for my signal. Earth's 7 warships hid in the shadow of the giant planet. The crews were nervous but ready. For weeks they had trained for this moment. Carthian ships approaching Jupiter now, reported her second-in-command. They don't see us yet. Diana smiled. Let's keep it that way. Prepare mines for deployment. The Earth ships had placed hundreds of mines in the asteroid belt. Each mine was hidden inside a chunk of rock, impossible to detect until it was too late. Carthians entering the asteroid field, said the radar operator. Diana leaned forward in her chair. Now, at her command, the mines activated. Explosions lit up space as the Carthian ships tried to avoid the sudden attack. While they were confused, Diana ordered her fleet to move. All ships, attack pattern Alpha, use Jupiter's magnetic field to mask your approach. The Earth vessels sped from behind Jupiter, firing weapons reverse-engineered from luminary technology. The Carthians, still disoriented from the mine attack, were slow to respond. 2 Carthian ships exploded immediately. A third spun out of control, its engines dead. The others tried to regroup, but the Earth vessels didn't fight the way they expected. Instead of facing them directly, the human ships weaved between asteroids, using them as shields, attacking from unexpected angles. This is impossible, said the Carthian commander. These primitives should not be able to damage our ships. By the time the battle ended, 5 Carthian vessels had been destroyed. The remaining 5 retreated, jumping to faster-than-light speed as soon as they cleared the solar system. On the Defender, Diana's crew cheered. Their first space battle had been a victory. Don't celebrate too long, Diana warned them. They'll be back, with a much larger fleet. Across the galaxy, Jack Powell guided the luminary shuttle through unfamiliar star systems. Beside him, Amy Rivera monitored the communication device Dr. Winters had created. Anything? Jack asked. Amy shook her head. No response to our signals yet. For 3 weeks, they had searched for signs of the luminary resistance. They had found only empty space and abandoned outposts. Wait, Amy said suddenly. I'm getting something. It's faint, but it's definitely a luminary signal pattern. Jack adjusted their course to follow the signal. It led them to a small moon orbiting a gas giant. The moon's surface appeared lifeless, but scans revealed an underground structure. This is Earth Shuttle calling any luminary forces, Amy broadcast. We come seeking alliance. For a long moment, there was silence. Then a voice responded. Identify yourselves. How do you pilot a luminary vessel? We are humans from Earth, Jack replied. We have Ambassador Ilara's authorization codes. After a tense wait, they received landing coordinates. The shuttle descended into a hidden hangar cut into the moon's surface. When the doors opened, they faced 20 luminary soldiers with weapons drawn. From among them stepped a tall figure with dark green skin, different from Ilara's blue. "I am General Thyllus," he said. "If you truly come from Earth, prove it." Jack showed him Ilara's recorded message. The general studied it carefully. "So Ilara survived," he said finally, "and found allies on a primitive world. What can humans possibly offer against the Carthian Dominion?" Before Jack could answer, alarms sounded throughout the base. "Carthian patrol ships approaching," shouted a luminary officer. General Thyllus turned to Jack. "It seems we will see what humans are capable of sooner than expected. These Carthians outnumber us 3-1. Jack smiled. "Numbers aren't everything, General. Amy, get our gear. Let's show our new friends how humans fight." The luminary watched with confusion as Jack and his team unpacked simple explosives and began modifying them rapidly. "What are they doing?" Thyllus asked one of his officers. "I believe, General," the officer replied. "They are teaching us something new about warfare." Admiral Zixthar was furious when he heard about the defeat of his scout fleet. He summoned his most trusted commander to his flagship. "These humans," he growled, "they destroyed half of our scout ships. Primitive beings from a backwater planet." Commander Drax bowed his head. "A lucky victory, Admiral. It will not happen again." "See that it doesn't," Zixthar ordered. "Take our battle group to Earth. Show these humans what happens when they defy the Carthian Dominion." Drax's battle group was massive. 50 warships, each carrying enough firepower to level a city. They moved through space toward Earth, confident in their strength. On Earth, all sensors detected the approaching fleet. In the command center, Diana Cruz studied the data with growing concern. "There are too many of them," she said to General Harris. "Our defenses won't hold against a force this size." The general's face was grim. "We need more time. The new weapons Dr. Winters is developing aren't ready yet." Diana looked at the battle plans spread before her. "Then we'll have to buy that time." The Earth fleet moved to intercept the Carthians in the outer solar system. 7 ships against 50. The odds were terrible, but Diana had a plan. "Operation Thunderstorm is our only chance," she told her crew on the Defender. "We'll use Earth's atmosphere to our advantage." The battle began near the orbit of Mars. The Carthian ships opened fire from long range, their energy weapons lighting up space. Earth's smaller, faster ships dodged and weaved, drawing the Carthians closer to Earth. For 2 days, they fought a running battle, retreating steadily toward their home planet. "They're running scared," Commander Drax told his officers. "Push forward. Finish them." But Diana was not running. She was leading the Carthians exactly where she wanted them. As the alien fleet entered Earth's upper atmosphere, Diana gave the order. "Activate the ionosphere charges. Now." All around the planet, devices planted in the upper atmosphere activated. They sent powerful electric currents through the ionosphere. The Carthian ships, designed for the vacuum of space, suddenly found their shields disrupted by the charged particles. "What's happening?" Drax demanded as his ship's systems began to fail. The Earth fleet turned and attacked. Their weapons, less affected by the ionosphere, cut through the weakened Carthian shields. 6 enemy ships exploded in the first minutes. But the Carthians still had numbers on their side. They surrounded the Defender, focusing their fire on Diana's flagship. "Engine room hit," reported an officer. "Shields failing." Diana made a quick decision. "All crew to escape pods. Abandon ship." "Captain, you need to go too," her second-in-command urged. She shook her head. "Someone needs to steer this ship. Now go." As the crew fled in escape pods, Diana turned the burning Defender toward the largest Carthian vessel, Drax's command ship. With the last of its power, the Earth ship accelerated. "For Earth," Diana whispered as her ship crashed into the Carthian flagship. Both vessels erupted in a ball of fire visible from the ground below. The remaining Earth forces fought bravely, but they were overwhelmed. One by one, they retreated to a secret base on Mars, leaving Earth open to the Carthian fleet. On Mars, Lieutenant Joe Miller received the news of Diana's sacrifice and the fleet's defeat. Beside him, Dr. Winters worked frantically on a new weapon design. "We're running out of time," Joe said, looking at the data showing Carthian ships entering Earth's orbit. "I need just a few more days," Olivia replied, not looking up from her work. "If I can crack the code of their shield frequencies." Joe put his hand on her shoulder. "Whatever you need. Diana bought us time with her life. We won't waste it." Around them, engineers and scientists worked day and night. The Mars base had become humanity's last hope. If they couldn't find a way to fight back, Earth would fall. And somewhere in the vastness of space, Jack Powell and his team were still out there, unaware of Earth's desperate situation, searching for allies that might never come. Jack Powell stood with General Phyllis, watching as the last Carthian patrol ship exploded. The battle had been short but fierce. The Luminary were amazed at how effective the human tactics had been. "Your explosive devices," Phyllis said, "so simple, yet the Carthians had no defense against them." Amy Rivera joined them, carrying the communication device Dr. Winters had built. "We modified mining charges," she explained. The Carthians were looking for advanced energy weapons. They weren't prepared for good old-fashioned explosives hidden in space debris. Phyllis studied the humans with new respect. Perhaps there is hope after all. In the days that followed, Jack's team showed the Luminary new ways to fight. They taught them about guerrilla warfare, ambushes, and psychological tactics, ideas that the technologically advanced Luminary had never considered. "The Carthians have always had superior technology," Amy told a group of Luminary officers, "so stop trying to beat them at their own game. Fight differently." While Jack trained the Luminary fighters, Amy worked with the communication device. One night, she burst into Jack's quarters, her face excited. "I've done it. I've connected with other resistance cells." Jack followed her to the communication center. On the screens were faces of different Luminary species, leaders of hidden groups scattered across dozens of star systems. "How many?" he asked, hardly believing what he was seeing. 17 separate resistance groups," Amy replied, "all fighting in their own way, all isolated until now." For the first time in months, hope spread through the Luminary base. General Phyllis called a meeting of all his officers. Jack and Amy sat beside him as he addressed them. "The humans have shown us that unity is our strength," he said. "With their help, we are no longer alone. The resistance lives." On Mars, Joe Miller watched as Dr. Winters made a breakthrough. For weeks, they had studied captured Carthian technology from the battle over Earth. "Look at this," Olivia said, pointing to her screen. "The Carthians use quantum communication to coordinate their fleet movements." Joe leaned closer. "Can we block it?" "Better," she said with a smile. "We can disrupt it. Every Carthian ship uses the same frequencies. If we broadcast this specific radiation pattern, we can blind their entire fleet at once." Joe immediately reported the discovery to General Harris. The remaining Earth forces began building transmitters that could generate the disruption pattern. "How long until we can deploy this?" the general asked. 2 weeks, Olivia replied. "But we need to test it first." Joe volunteered to lead a small team to attack a Carthian outpost in the asteroid belt. It would be dangerous, but they needed to know if the new technology worked. In space, Jack Powell and Amy Rivera traveled from one hidden Luminary base to another, bringing the groups together and sharing human tactics. Resistance fighters who had been hiding for years began to strike back at Carthian supply lines and communication centers. The Carthians were puzzled by the new attack patterns. They had never faced an enemy who fought this way before. Ships disappeared. Bases were sabotaged. Messages were intercepted. Admiral Zixthar received reports of these attacks with growing concern. "These are not Luminary tactics," he told his officers. "This is something new." He ordered Commander Drax to leave Earth and deal with the growing resistance. "Find these rebels and crush them," he commanded. Drax was reluctant to abandon the invasion of Earth, but he obeyed. His fleet left Earth's orbit, giving the planet a brief respite. On his flagship, Drax studied reports of the attacks. "Humans," he muttered. "They fight like no species we have encountered before." For the first time in centuries, the Carthian Dominion faced an enemy they did not understand. And what they did not understand, they began to fear. In a distant star system, Jack Powell received a transmission from Mars. He saw Joe Miller's face on the screen, tired but determined. "We're still fighting," Joe said, "and we have a plan." Joe Miller led his team through the darkness of space. Their ship was small and made little noise. They approached the Carthian outpost hidden in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. "Everyone clear on the plan?" Joe asked his 5 team members. They nodded. Each wore a spacesuit with extra oxygen tanks. They carried weapons and the new disruption device Dr. Winters had built. "Remember," Joe continued, "we need to capture their weapons intact. Dr. Winters needs to study them." The Carthian outpost was built into a large asteroid. It had sensors and weapons that could detect most ships. But Joe's team used a trick. They attached themselves to a small asteroid and pushed it toward the outpost. To Carthian sensors, they looked like just another rock floating through space. 3 minutes to contact," whispered one of Joe's team. As they drifted closer, Joe activated the disruption device. Immediately, lights on the Carthian outpost began to flicker. "It's working," Joe said with a smile. "Their communications are down." They landed on the surface of the outpost asteroid and cut through an outer door. Inside, Carthian soldiers moved in confusion. Without their communication systems, they couldn't coordinate their defense. Joe's team moved quickly through the station. They stunned Carthian soldiers with weapons designed by Dr. Winters. In the main control room, Joe downloaded Carthian data while his team gathered weapon samples. 5 minutes until their backup systems come online," warned a team member. Joe hurried to finish the download. As he worked, he noticed files marked with special symbols. He included them in the download without knowing what they contained. The team escaped just as alarms began to sound throughout the outpost. They pushed off from the asteroid and drifted away, looking like space debris until they were safe enough to activate their engines. Back on Mars, Dr. Winters examined the captured weapons while Joe reviewed the downloaded files. "Look at this," he called to Olivia. These files were heavily encrypted. They must be important. Together, they decoded the files. What they found shocked them. "These are ancient Carthian prophecies," Olivia said, reading the translated text. "They speak of a world of warriors whose people would bring about the Dominion's fall." Joe looked at her. "Earth. They're talking about humans." "It seems so," she replied. "That's why they avoided our solar system for so long. They were afraid of us." This discovery gave new energy to the Earth forces. If the Carthians feared humans, maybe they had reason to. Across the galaxy, the resistance grew stronger. Jack Powell and Amy Rivera had united 23 luminary groups. Using Dr. Winters' communication device, these scattered forces began to coordinate their attacks. The Carthians, used to fighting a conventional war against a predictable enemy, couldn't respond effectively to the new tactics. Their supply lines were disrupted. Their communications were intercepted. Their outposts were attacked and abandoned before reinforcements could arrive. Admiral Zixthar became increasingly angry as reports of defeats reached him. "How can this be happening?" he demanded of his officers. "We destroyed the luminary fleet. The war was won." An advisor stepped forward nervously. "Admiral, these new tactics began after human involvement. Our ancient texts warn." "Enough," Zixthar shouted. "I do not believe in ancient superstitions. The humans are primitive beings with primitive technology. They cannot defeat us." But doubt had begun to spread through the Carthian ranks. Stories of the human tactics reached every corner of the Dominion. For the first time in centuries, the Carthian military faced something they didn't understand. Commander Drax chased resistance forces from system to system, always arriving too late. The rebels didn't stand and fight as the Luminary once had. They struck quickly and disappeared. On Earth, the remaining human populations watched as Carthian ships withdrew from orbit, called away to fight the growing rebellion. For the first time since the invasion, people looked up at the night sky with hope. In a secret meeting on Mars, General Harris addressed the Earth Defense Council. "We have a window of opportunity," he said. "The Carthians are distracted by the resistance. It's time for our counterattack." He unveiled the plan. It was bold and dangerous, but if it worked, it might end the war. "We'll need everyone," the general said. "Jack Powell and the Luminary forces, Joe Miller and Dr. Winters, every ship and soldier we have left." Joe looked at the battle plans. "When do we start?" "Now," replied the general. "The Carthians thought the war was won. It's time to show them it's only just beginning." 1 year had passed since the Luminary ship crashed in Arizona. In that time, everything had changed. What began as a desperate fight for survival had become something else. Now, humanity led the greatest counterattack the galaxy had ever seen. The combined Earth Luminary fleet gathered at the edge of the Carthian home system. Over 200 ships, most of them captured from the Carthians themselves. At the center was Earth's new flagship, the Avenger, commanded by Admiral Joe Miller. "All ships report ready," said his second-in-command. Joe nodded. "Begin the quantum disruption broadcast." On board every ship, devices based on Dr. Winters' design activated. They sent out waves that scrambled Carthian communications. Across the enemy fleet, confusion spread as ships lost contact with each other. "First wave, advance," Joe ordered. The battle began with fury. Carthian ships, unable to coordinate their movements, fought individually against an enemy that moved as one. The Earth Luminary forces pushed steadily toward the Carthian homeworld. On a small stealth ship, Jack Powell and Amy Rivera led a special team. Their mission was the most dangerous of all. They needed to infiltrate the Carthian Central Command. "We're approaching the planet's defense grid," Amy reported. Jack looked at the team of humans and Luminary who had trained together for months. Everyone remembered the plan. "We get in, plant the disruptors, and get out." Their ship slipped past the confused Carthian defenses. They landed near a massive building carved into a mountain. This was the heart of the Carthian military power. While the battle raged in space, Jack's team entered the command center through service tunnels. The Carthians, focused on the space battle, never saw them coming. In his war room, Admiral Zixthar watched with growing horror as his fleet fell into chaos. "How is this happening?" he demanded. "Where is Drax?" Commander Drax's fleet was ambushed at the outer system, an officer reported. "They never reached us." For the first time in his long life, Zixthar felt fear. The humans had done what no species had ever done. They had brought the war to the Carthian homeworld itself. In orbit above the planet, Joe Miller directed the battle from the Avenger. Luminary ships fought alongside Earth vessels. They used tactics developed on Earth, combined with technology from both civilizations. "The Carthian flagship is breaking formation," reported the sensor officer. Joe watched as Zixthar's massive vessel turned away from the battle. "They're running." But the Admiral wasn't fleeing. His ship moved toward a huge space station orbiting the planet. "Sir, we're detecting a massive energy buildup in that station," said the officer. Dr. Winters, who stood on the bridge as the scientific advisor, checked her instruments. "It's a doomsday weapon," she said, her voice tight with concern. "Aimed at Earth." Joe made a quick decision. "All ships, focus fire on that station." But the station was too well protected. The weapon continued to charge. Inside the Carthian command center, Jack's team planted their disruptors when alarms began to sound. "They've detected the weapon activation," said a Luminary team member. "Zixthar is using the planet killer." Jack looked at Amy. "We need a new plan." Together, They fought their way to the control room for the weapon. Carthian guards fell before their combined firepower. When they reached the main controls, Jack saw that they were too late to stop the firing sequence. "There's only one way," he told Amy. "We need to redirect it." Working together, they changed the target coordinates. Instead of Earth, the weapon would hit the space station itself. In space, Joe saw the station begin to glow as the weapon prepared to fire. There was no time to evacuate his ship. The Avenger was too close. "All crew to escape pods," he ordered. "I'll keep the ship between that weapon and Earth as long as possible." But the weapon never fired at Earth. Instead, it turned on its own station. The explosion lit up space like a new star. Zixthar's flagship, too close to escape, vanished in the blast. The Carthian forces, seeing their leader destroyed and their ultimate weapon gone, began to surrender. The war that had raged for centuries was finally over. 1 month later, representatives from Earth, the Luminary Alliance, and the reformed Carthian worlds met to sign a peace treaty. Ambassador Ilara stood before them all. "Today marks a new beginning," she said. "A peace made possible because humans showed us a different way to fight, and a better way to win." Joe Miller, Jack Powell, Amy Rivera, and Dr. Winters sat together, listening to her words. They had lost friends, Captain Diana Cruz, and many others. But Earth had survived, and humanity had found its place among the stars. They thought the war was won, Ilara concluded, until humanity joined the battle. And in doing so, you changed the galaxy forever.